Good evening, everyone. We have been watching President Biden's high-stakes news conference, and he is vowing to stay in the race.
He also referred to his debate performance as a stupid mistake.
And KCAL political reporter Tom Waite joins us now from the newsroom. Tom, what are your thoughts? What did you think of the press conference, and fill us in on the details?
Good questions, right, Pat? I mean, I think for the most part, there were not many gaffes, right, in this press conference, but the president is under an intense microscope after the debate, and everything he says is being scrutinized.
I'm just going to keep moving, and because, look, I got more work to do. We got more work to finish. There's so much, we made so much progress.
And there he was promising to stay in the race. But when the president was asked about Vice President Harris's ability to potentially defeat former President Trump in a hypothetical matchup if he were to, drop out, he said this.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president because I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Number one. The fact is that the consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again.
And again, I want to reiterate, there were not many gaffes in this press conference. It stretched about an hour, I think maybe close to an hour, possibly a little bit longer than that. But again, not many of them. We are just showing you some of these gaffes, again, because of the performance in the debate. So before the press conference, President Biden also had a gaffe. The press conference was started. He was introducing the president of Ukraine during the NATO summit. Here's what he said.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Did you see any damage to our standing in my leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference? What do you think? And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now, at the very end, I said, Putin. I said, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky.
Well, now remember the context here. While the heat is definitely on President Biden, there also seems to be a very different standard on the Republican side, where the GOP is supporting and uniting behind former President Trump, who is now a convicted felon and still facing a slew of federal charges, including trying to overturn the 2020 election. Pat and Chauncey, I think if you just look at this as a whole, it looked like a pretty normal press conference. Obviously, there were a few gaffes there that we did see, but for the most part, if you take it out of the, if you forgot about the debate performance, this wouldn't have seemed like anything but a normal sort of routine press conference. But given what we saw the night of the debate and all the calls from Democrats, not only publicly but privately, we have top A-list donors like George Clooney who are telling him to get out of the race. That's why we're looking at this with such a critical eye now and looking at all of these potential gaffes. But for the most part, this was a pretty seamless press conference.
Well, you know what, Tom? The night is still young, so we will have to see and hear what some of those folks on Capitol Hill have to say, and maybe even George Clooney or a couple of donors before the night is over.
Right. I mean, the question really is, will this make any difference at all? For the people who are already demanding that he get out of the race, will this press conference really do anything? Will it move the needle? It's very unclear, and he was very defiant in the press conference. He said repeatedly he has no intention of leaving the race. So, for people who live in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where this race will be decided, will this press conference have any bearing? A press conference on July 11th, will this have any bearing on what happens in the fall? I mean, this is all the sort of tension is playing out in Washington and in the media, so it's just hard to really to believe or to understand that this press conference will somehow move the needle, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see, Tom. Thank you so much. And stay with KCAL News throughout the night for continuing coverage of the president's news conference. And the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell will have more analysis coming up tonight on the news at 6:30. We might finally be closing